Welcome to the Private Practice Journeys podcast, where mental health professionals learn about the nuts and bolts of private practice by listening to the journeys of 4 therapists that have taken the plunge into private practice. And here's your host, Chris Quarto.
Hi, this is Chris Quarto, and welcome back to Private Practice Journeys. Hey, I am so excited for you to listen to today's podcast episode with Cindy Norton. She is really doing some amazing things. Over the past several months since I last talked to her, I'm really eager for you guys to listen to what she's been up to. So without further ado, here's Cindy. Hey everyone, welcome again to Private Practice Journeys. Thanks for joining me. Today we have Cindy Norton, who's come back to join us, and the last time you heard Cindy was she was on a podcast episode with Lynn Grotsky. It was part of our expert series where we had experts come on with our 4 therapists who we're following throughout 2017, and Cindy had the opportunity to talk to Lynn, and boy, Cindy, that was really a neat episode, wasn't it?
Oh, yes, it was. She's one of the kind of pioneers in the practice building field, so it was really awesome to speak with her.
I'll tell you, I was tickled when she agreed to do this. I wasn't expecting it. I just thought, well, I'll just kind of see if she's willing to do it, and she was, and it's, oh boy, this is fantastic. So I was really glad to have her on and to have you guys to be able to link up with one another just to talk about some of these issues. So, well, before we get into the nitty-gritty of today's podcast, what I've done, Cindy, is I've asked the other therapist what one thing they've done this summer that was kind of fun. And so I want to get your take on that, and then we'll start talking about the other stuff.
Yeah, this summer, my boyfriend and I went to Oregon, and that was the first time either one of us had been to the Pacific Coast.
Oh.
So it was really beautiful. We went to Portland and went up the coast and saw Tillamook and Astoria. And my favorite thing about the trip was getting to see Cannon Beach and the Haystack Rock that was in the Goonies. It is just beautiful.
I had never heard of those things.
Yeah, well, you have to watch the Goonies if you hadn't. It's this cute little movie, I think, from the 80s.
Okay.
And, yeah, it's really awesome. But that location was in there, and it's just this huge rock. The pictures don't do it justice, and it's beautiful, and it's got moss and grass on it, and it's just a little bit in the ocean. And I also really enjoyed every city I go to, I have to do a ghost tour. So when we were in Portland, we went on a ghost tour, and it was really awesome. So that was definitely the highlight of my summer.
That was a long flight for you, wasn't it? Because I think you're in Asheville, aren't you?
Yes. Yeah, we flew to Atlanta and then to Portland, and I think the flight was about 6 hours or so.
Okay. All right. Very cool. It's nice to get away, just to kind of do something different and get away from the things that you do on a daily basis. And I think we all need to do that to rejuvenate and to take care of ourselves. So it was nice to hear that you got to do something enjoyable this summer.
Yes, it was nice.
Well, listen, I wanted to touch base with you. It's the last time you were on with Lynn. I think it was in early June. And we really haven't touched base with one another since that time. So I'm just kind of wondering what new types of things have been happening in your practice since then.
Yeah, a lot has changed. I've been speaking with a lot of people about their practices, so I've been getting really good at telling my private practice story.
Okay.
So I'll just give a summary of my practice, because as we know, I opened up in January just on Saturdays, because I was still working full-time at my agency job.
That's
and
right.
Really didn't get any clients until June.
All right.
And so I got a few clients in June. I worked my way up to about 4 clients. A couple of clients graduated with the premarital counseling. It's a set number of sessions. There was one couple that wanted to take a break, and then one really wasn't a good fit. And then summer happened. I went on vacation. And with all of that, I was back to 0 clients after I got back from vacation. And that it was a really scary time, because it was probably a month and a half with no inquiries, no calls, nothing. So
I'd be freaking out.
yeah, it was really tough. But I mean, I knew that summers for some people can be slow. Not everyone experiences the lull. But and then just within the past probably 3 weeks or so, starting I guess maybe the middle of August, I all of a sudden got about 8 inquiries, and I have 4
Wow.
new clients that I'm currently working with more scheduled to begin. So my Saturdays are full, and then I've got one evening appointment on Monday evenings that I have. So I'm good, and I'm doing pretty well with the private practice
Oh,
because I'm still at my agency job. I'm
uh-huh.
just doing contract work, so
All
I'm just
right.
there 2 days a week. And I
Okay.
would like to focus 2 days a week on my private practice and then 2 days a week on my new business that I've created. And we can talk about that probably a little bit later on. But
Okay. Very
yeah,
cool.
so
So,
it's like a roller coaster, just ups and downs.
and as you were talking about that, I was thinking, well, what do you attribute that to? That the fact that you were getting all these new inquiries into your business. What do you attribute that to, Cindy?
Well, I think that a lot of people are on vacation, and I work with a lot of couples.
Uh huh.
So, you have 2 people's schedules to kind of deal with, and I just maybe people are out vacationing and having fun, and really therapy might not be the main thing on their mind. And then
Mm-hmm.
when you kind of get back into the swing of things, then they start noticing, oh yeah, well maybe we need to seek help for this. So I'm
I
sure there's
noticed.
lots of things that can be attributed to, but
Yeah, and I noticed that, and I think that varies from therapist to therapist, but I certainly can vouch for that. Where the summer months were typically lower attended, and I think part of that is because at the time when I was in full-time private practice, I had been seeing mostly kids, and of course the kids are on
mhm.
vacation or doing summer activities, and so there's not a lot of therapy that's going on at that time, at least for me. And then, of course, when school starts back up, then of course the referrals start coming back in again. So that was typical
Yeah,
for me anyway. So, but
yeah, definitely.
I think the challenge is, and we might have Journey followers who are listening to this, is, well, what do you do for income if the referrals go down? How do you manage the income part? You don't have the income coming in, so how do you manage all that? How do you deal with all that?
Well, to be honest, this is probably the first time in my life that I've been really scared about not being able to pay my power bill
Yeah.
or, just being late on payments. And it was really difficult because even with my school-based therapy job where I'm doing the contract work, over the summer, a lot of kids are on break. So I may
Right.
have only had maybe 5 sessions over the whole summer. Just because kids take the breaks over
Yep.
the summer.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really difficult. And so during the midst of the summer, that's really when I decided to. I know a lot of people may think that it's a crazy idea, but I started another business because I really enjoy doing the consulting work and maybe helping other therapists with the business side of their private practice and
Okay.
talking about networking and branding and websites and all of that stuff. But it really was a rough couple of months. I knew that by the time August rolled around and the school-based therapy job starting up, I would, have the bare minimum that I needed to pay my bills and buy
Mm-hmm.
groceries and things like that. But it definitely was really difficult. And that's why I'm a big proponent of, just taking baby steps because I am, I was working full time at an agency and then just decided to start real slow on the side with
Right.
private practice. And then after a few months, decided to just drop down and start doing contract work, where you're there 2 or
Mm-hmm.
3 days a week.
Right.
And then I'm going to do that throughout this next school year. And hopefully by next spring or summer, then I'll be able to leave the agency job and then focus more on my private practice and the consulting business. So I'm not a huge risk taker. So I
Right.
really like to do those little steps because it can get really scary when you don't have that income coming in.
Right. And I think of the 4 therapists, yours has probably been a more gradual in terms of
Yes.
how you're taking the plunge into private practice, and you're doing it in a way that fits for you and that really is more comfortable for you. I think that also what I found in my first year or 2 of private practice, knowing what I experienced that first summer where I kind of had that dip, I knew to anticipate that the following summer So what I did is during the, quote, good times, during the school year, basically for me, when I had a lot of business coming in, that I would just try to sock away some funds. So when I had that dip in the summer, I could just take those funds that I had saved and use that for whatever bills I needed to pay. And that seemed to work out pretty well for me.
Yeah.
But let's, you alluded to your new business, and I'd love to hear more about that. And I'm sure the Journey followers would too.
Yes, I decided probably in July because, I got back from vacation, didn't have any clients. I was looking for something to do. I was bored. I'm like, I need to be working on something or something that's going to bring in some income. And I always knew that I wanted to do consulting work for therapists because with my undergrad in business management, I had tons of accounting classes, marketing classes.
Sure.
And it was just something it's something I've always been interested in, and I love designing websites and all of that. So I initially thought, well, maybe after I get my practice completely full and have accomplished that, then maybe 3 or 4 years down the road, then I might open the consulting business. But the more I was thinking about it, it's something that I really wanted to do now.
Yeah.
And my goal that I'm working toward, and what I've always had in my mind, is I've never really wanted to do counseling full time.
Okay.
So I thought, since my long-term goal is to do counseling part-time and consulting part-time, why not start them both around the same time versus getting my counseling practice completely full and then having to decide to cut that in half while I'm trying to build this other agency or this other business. I just thought this made more sense to start them both from the beginning, since that's what my long-term goal is.
Okay. So what's the name of the business, Cindy?
It is called Mountain Practice Journeys. And so I really liked kind of the mountain theme. So the website has a lot of beautiful pictures of mountains, and I've titled everything. So, for example, my one-on-one consultations, I've called them like a guided climb. And then I'm going to do a practice building group here in person in Asheville that starts next week. And it's going to be called the Group Hike. And I'm doing a trail guide, which is going to be my branding services, helping people with branding.
Right.
And I'm going to start designing websites for therapists. And I actually, right before our call today, I built my first website for a therapist, and we got it up and running just this morning.
Oh, so very cool.
That's something I really enjoy doing.
This is neat because you're obviously capitalizing on your strengths, on your business background and business and marketing background, and doing this in a way to serve the therapist community, and just it's also a way of expanding your practice and diversifying your practice. So what a great thing to do. And at the end of the episode today, I want to get some information about how people can contact you about that if they're interested in seeking those services.
That sounds great.
As you've gone along, Cindy, in your private practice journey over this year, have there been any additional things you've learned about in terms of being a business owner or operating your practice?
Probably one of the things, I'm thinking back about what I would do differently, and there's not a whole lot that I would do differently, but one thing is now I would probably think about initially looking to sublet a space, just maybe rent an office by the hour initially before jumping into a full day of subletting.
Mm-hmm.
But really that's just a minor thing because you never know how fast you're going to fill up. But I think if that's an option to go for that, and that way, because I was subletting an office 1 day a week from the beginning, and the first few months I didn't have any clients. So if I was able to find someone that would be willing to sublet to me by the hour, until I build up to 2 or 3 clients and could justify maybe going and subletting for a full day. But I mean, that's just a small thing, but I think
Right.
it can really help out in the beginning if you're if you're trying to get started on a low budget.
Yeah, it's hard to know at first, isn't it, about, what to
Yeah.
do and how to approach this. And, obviously experience is the best teacher. But I think what you learned through this is that you don't want to be paying for empty office space. And if you could work smarter, or at least rent smarter or sublet smarter, it'll end up costing you less in the long run. And yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's look at this other thing too, Cindy, because I've seen you on different social media outlets. I've seen you on Facebook and some other places, and I wonder how social media has played a role in your practice development. Can you say a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm probably most active on the Facebook pages just because, it's probably something I enjoy a little more.
Uh-huh.
So one piece of advice would be to not go out and get every social media like I did in the beginning, because you're not going to be able to keep up with it all.
Oh, okay. All right.
So when I first opened up, I'm like, oh, I need Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest, and all of these sites, and I got them set up. And as time has went on, I've really found that I'm the most active on Facebook, and then second will be Instagram. But my Twitter and Pinterest pages, they haven't had a whole lot of action, and I just haven't been able to keep up with everything you need to do to make those kind of worth your time.
A little bit of dust going on those accounts now?
Yes. And because I've toyed with the idea of just closing them, because I don't want someone to go and be like, oh, well, they're not very active on here. But the Pinterest board does have some good information on it, so I really didn't want to completely wipe that out. So they're up for now, and maybe I might, see how I can kind of keep them more active in the future. But that would be my first piece of advice, is maybe just pick one to start with. And I think in order to determine which one it is, it needs to be a combination of where your clients hang out and what you enjoy doing. Mm-hmm. And if it's the same thing, that's really awesome. But those are maybe a couple of things to think about when you're trying to decide which social media platform to be on.
Yeah, it's hard to distribute your time amongst all those different social media outlets, and I agree with that. I think I don't remember if I was talking about this. I think maybe with Lisa that maybe just picking one, starting with that one, and just really feeling comfortable and figuring out how it works and help making it work for you in the best way, and then maybe moving on. But I know for me, I'm kind of like you. I had a lot of different social media outlets, and it's like I can't keep up with all this. I'm going to have to scale back. Yeah, I did for Facebook. I did run an ad over the summer just for the premarital education services. Yeah,
and I think that those can be very beneficial. I just tried it for a week, and I know in order for them to be effective, you need to, just keep running the ad for a little longer or more than just once. But I just wanted to give it a try to see, basically teach myself how to use it and figure out the budgeting and how much money to spend. And so I think it was helpful, because I did hear, I don't know that I've gotten any clients directly from that.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible, but I'm not really sure. But I did hear from a lot of my friends and other therapists in my community during that week that they saw my ad quite a bit. So I know that in order for them to be effective, people need, you need to keep popping up and keep that more consistent. So that's something that I probably will continue doing once I learn more about the strategy behind running the ads and how to do it more effectively. But that's something that I've heard from a lot of therapists that have been beneficial, especially when trying to fill groups, or if you're directing them towards your website about a specific service that you provide.
Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the challenges of transitioning out of agency work to private practice is there's a lot more financial issues that are at stake, and a lot of these fall onto you as the private practice owner, where you're having to dole out this money for things like Facebook ads and things of that nature. there's more of a risk, and but of course there can certainly be a payoff as well. And I think one of the things that we're all trying to do this, Cindy, and I know you do too, is to figure out what's the return on investment. Is it really worth my while to put these kinds of funds into Facebook ads, and what's coming out of it? And I think those are some of the things that you have to try to figure out and to measure and to gauge and to be a good business owner.
Yeah, because you don't want to be putting your money into something that's not, a good return on investment. And sometimes it takes some trial and error.
Right.
Because from what I've found so far, the few clients that I have gotten over the past few months, there's really about 3 places I can identify where they're coming from. And several of them have just done a Google search and found my website, which that speaks to the importance of SEO and being able to show up, on the first page in your specialty and in your area. And then I've gotten several clients from colleagues. So just the importance of networking and having those, meeting people for coffee and going to networking events and getting to know other therapists, just kind of one-on-one. And the last one, which is kind of new, so there's a couple of different groups here in Asheville where you can, it's little therapist meetings where you can go and get free CEUs, and they have a speaker each month. So once in July and once this month, me and a colleague presented on Gottman Method couples therapy at these. And so there were several therapists in attendance. And so that's a really good way of kind of getting your name out there by doing those presentations in the community. And I know that I've gotten at least 1 to 2 clients directly from those presentations.
Right. And you're basically setting yourself up as the quote expert in that area in your community. And what a great way, getting your name known and all that kind of stuff. So you have multiple ways of getting your name out in the community. And boy, what a great service that you're providing as well by doing the marital therapy and all these types of things. I know that you put in a lot of time and effort of doing the Gottman training, and now to be able to offer that to people in your community, it's a wonderful service.
Yes.
Well, Cindy, I want to know a little bit more about how people can contact you, either clients or therapists who are interested in your counseling services or in your private practice development, marketing, business services. How can people contact you?
Yeah, the best way for both of those is through Facebook and through my website. So for my counseling practice, for AVL Couples Therapy, it is just avlcouplestherapy.com.
All right.
And that's the name on Facebook as well. And then for the consulting services and web design and all that through the Mountain Practice Journeys, it is just mountainpracticejourneys.com. And I would encourage people that are, interested in any consulting type services is to follow that Facebook page for Mountain Practice Journeys, because each month I'm giving away a free guided climb, which is the 60-minute consultation, which is typically a $60 value.
Nice.
So I'm doing that once a month. And so throughout the end of this year, it'll only be in person in Asheville. But starting in January, I'm going to be opening it up to anyone. So we can just, meet on Skype or through DoxyMe and have a consultation that way, and they can also win that as well.
How cool is that? That's great. Okay. Well, I'll make sure and put all that information in the show notes, and we'll look forward to talking to you again next month, Cindy.
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
All right. All right, it was nice to have Cindy back on the podcast, and one of the neat things that she's doing, smart things too, is diversifying her practice. She's not putting all of her eggs in one basket. She has the private practice, which she started at the beginning of the year, and it's starting to build slowly but surely. But she also started the Mountain Practice Journeys consulting services to help therapists grow their practices. And boy, what a nice complement to the private practice, and it aligns really well with her business background too. So neat to see what she's doing, and it would be neat to follow this as well to see what ends up happening in the future. Well, if you have any questions about what we discussed in this podcast episode, you want the show notes, you want to look at the links for Cindy's website or her consulting services, you can get them all on my website, chrisquarto.com, CHRISQUARTO.com. I'll have everything there. And if you want to listen to that podcast episode back in June that Cindy did with Lynn Grotsky, the expert in private practice development, do yourself a favor. I mean, I said this before for the other therapists too, but man, these experts really had a lot of great things, a lot of great suggestions for how to grow your practices. So if you haven't listened to Cindy and Lynn's podcast episode yet, do that, and you can get that on my website as well. Listen, have a great rest of the week, and keep things rolling.